Welcome to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on videos like this. June 6, 1944. A day that would change the fate of the Allies in Europe as the largest amphibious invasion in history, codenamed Operation Overlord, begins. American, British, and Canadian troops cross the English Channel and land on the shores of Normandy. More than 160,000 Allied soldiers storm France via air, land, and sea. This day is forever etched in memory as D-Day. However, this journey toward victory is not just an invasion. It also marks the rise of a nation's spirit that has endured under the yoke of Nazi Germany. The landing on the Normandy coast was not just a quest for military victory, it was a journey toward freedom. The French resistance, bolstered by the Allies' courageous move, grows even stronger. The Germans, in turn, become increasingly brutal in their efforts to suppress this resistance. Every act of defiance against the occupation comes at a heavy cost. The bloodiest of these occurs on June 10, 1944, in the village of Oradour-sur-Glane. The 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich, brutally massacres 240 women, 205 children, and 197 men, completely destroying the village. This is just one of the many tragedies of occupied France. The brutality of the German occupation deepens with the division of France in 1940. As northern France falls entirely under German control, the Vichy government established in the south is forced to collaborate. However, the flame of freedom within the French people refuses to die out. Resistance movements launch both silent and overt wars against the German occupation. Guerrilla groups known as the Maquis ignite resistance in France's mountainous and rural areas. These brave individuals, filled with a vengeful determination to fight against the German occupation, aim not only for their own freedom, but for the liberation of all of Europe. Many Frenchmen, refusing to work as forced laborers in Germany, join the Maquis. These fighters, who escape the clutches of forced labor, wage guerrilla warfare against the Germans while hiding in the mountains and forests. Allied soldiers who join them become the heroic warriors of this resistance. Their courage and military expertise significantly contribute to the resistance movement. Members of the Maquis became not only fighters against the German occupation, but also symbols of freedom. They stood against the enemy using guerrilla tactics in the high mountains and deep valleys. These fearless warriors were like a secret army that changed the course of the war. Over time, strengthened by Allied support, the resistance movement evolves into a powerful force capable of breaking Nazi Germany's back. The French resistance grew stronger as the Nazi occupation progressed, and German tactics became increasingly ruthless. Especially after the Wannsee Conference on January 20, 1942, plans were made for the deportation of Jews throughout Western Europe, including France. By the summer of 1942, France was forced to fulfill this inhumane quota, and in some cases, even voluntarily handed over more Jews. One of the most painful memories of this dark period was the Vel d'Hiver roundup that took place in Paris on July 16 to 17, 1942. A total of 13,152 Jews were gathered in a large gymnasium and held under horrific conditions as they awaited deportation. Most were sent to Auschwitz, and this tragedy revealed the extent of the brutality faced by Jews in Nazi-occupied France and the horrors of the Vichy government. In 1943, the heavy defeat of the Germans at Stalingrad marked a turning point in the war on the European front, further emboldening the French resistance. Now more organized and determined, the resistance tried every possible way to ambush German forces and slow their advance. Maquis groups would block roads with trees in wooded areas, drawing German soldiers into traps and stopping them with machine gun fire and sniper attacks. Such operations kept alive the hopes for liberation in occupied France. The elite Waffen-SS division, Das Reich, moved to counter the Allied invasion following the Normandy landings. However, the fact that this division took much longer than expected, 18 days to travel from Toulouse to Caen, clearly demonstrated the strength and impact of the resistance. Das Reich had previously conducted brutal reprisals against Soviet partisan resistance on the Eastern Front, massacring tens of thousands of civilians and destroying villages. Just 3 days after the Normandy invasion, the division's commander, Lammerding, ordered the cleansing of the Clermont-Ferrand area of partisans. What this order entailed soon became evident with a horrific massacre. On June 9, 1944, 99 men were executed in the town of Toul. On the same day, SS officer Helmut Kempfe was captured by the militia of Georges Guingouin, one of the leading figures of the French resistance. Guingouin ordered Kempfe's execution in retaliation for the massacres in Toul. While the details of Kempfe's death are not fully known, rumors still circulate that he was burned in a German military ambulance. On a dark summer day in 1944, what happened in the village of Oradour-sur-Glane became one of history's unforgettable tragedies. It all began when Adolf Diekmann, a German officer, found the lifeless body of his close friend, Helmut Kempfe. This discovery drove Diekmann mad, leading him to make a horrific decision: the complete destruction of the village and the massacre of its residents. The people of Oradour-sur-Glane, unaware of the terror about to unfold, were living their ordinary lives that day. SS troops gathered the villagers in the town square, separating them into groups of men, women, and children. The men were taken to barns outside the village, where they were gunned down and burned. Meanwhile, the women and children were locked inside the church. The church, filled with screams and terror, was set ablaze with grenades. There was no escape, no hope of survival. A total of 642 innocent people lost their lives in a storm of vengeance. Only a few survivors emerged by hiding behind bodies or managing to escape, but the village itself was utterly destroyed. After carrying out this horrific massacre, the German soldiers demolished the village to erase any trace, retreating silently into the evening darkness. But what was the real reason behind this brutal act? Did Adolf Diekmann truly believe the villagers had helped the resistance, or was another town the intended target? These questions remain unanswered. While historians suggest that Diekmann acted on faulty intelligence, the villagers insisted they had no connection to the resistance. Even though the German army offered various explanations for the incident, none could lessen the weight of this tragedy. A decision made in just a few seconds claimed hundreds of lives and left behind only the painful memory of destruction. The Oradour-sur-Glane Massacre is remembered as one of history's most brutal crimes against humanity. The massacre at Oradour-sur-Glane, inscribed in the dark pages of history, became one of the most emblematic examples of the horrific crimes committed against civilians during the Nazi occupation of Europe. After the death of Commander Diekmann, who was ordered to be tried by military court for the massacre, all charges against Colonel Sylvester Stadler, the one responsible, were dropped. However, when the pursuit of post-war justice began, Nazi General Heinz Bernhard Lammerding was shielded in Germany despite France's extradition requests. Even the death and prison sentences handed down by the Bordeaux court in 1953 lost their validity within just a few years due to pardons. As Oradour-sur-Glane remains etched in our memories as a lasting symbol of Nazi brutality, the suffering experienced during that time has never been fully erased. This horrifying history stands before us not only as a reminder, but as a warning from which we must learn to ensure that such atrocities never happen again.